This is going to be your post-surf stretch routine. I guarantee if you start using it, you're going to feel it's legit. This will be your new post-surf stretch routine. I'm Chris Mills with surfstrengthcoach.com. This is the dude, Bryce Turner. Turner's last name?
Turner's last name.
Turner's last name. Seal Beach, lead Eldoa, Soma trainer, instructor. Check out the Surf Doa program and the Surf Athlete app from this dude's brain, my body.
That's only if you want your body feeling good.
If you have an eye on longevity, learn Eldoa. So we're not going to get into really too much detail of specificity of the L5S1 Eldoa, but we're going to run you through a routine that helps restore feeling good, normalcy, undo compression and tensions.
Well, I think what we see is you're paddling, you're prone all day, right? You're putting a lot of stress not only through the shoulders, but the back end extension, you're loading the lats. Sometimes you're compressing that lower spine. The lats are part of the lower spine. Yeah. So we want to open all that up. So as a quick remedy for keeping the lower spine healthy, having that link with the shoulders, de-stressing the spine just from the posture of the everyday, prone paddle position. So that's what we're going to do.
So this is a follow along. If you want the details, check out the Surf Doa program in the Surf Athlete app. Like I said, this is going to be a follow along. L5S1 is a really comprehensive, detail-oriented exercise. So if you want much more thorough understanding and learn how to do this stuff, check out the Surf Doa program in the Surf Athlete app. Do it.
Do it.
And we've got a full L5S1 tutorial on YouTube. Google search, we'll link above, below, best low back stretch for surfers. So real time, follow along. Let's go, bro. What are we doing? I just finished surfing.
I can tell.
It's the hair.
It's the hair.
It's the hair, dude.
Okay, so just take a kneeling position there. So we've got a couple ways that we can kind of approach an exercise like this. Primarily what we look at is the lats attached from the shoulder all the way down into the lower spine. So I usually like to start with more of what we would call a proximal or more of a shoulder lat stretch. So Chris is in that kneeling position. We're going to take that arm overhead. The palm's going to face out. That just helps position that bicep close to the ear because we already have a lot of tension with that arm moving up and over towards the head. We want to make sure that we're in a tucked position as much as we can because that lat functions all the way down to the pelvis and will cause more extension for that lower spine if it's tight. We want to follow that elbow pressing up and away from the pelvis, elongating through this whole left side of his body. As he presses up and overhead, he's going to follow that into a slight side bend, and we can already feel that tension starting to build on the side of the body. And I'm going to have him rotate a little bit with his shoulders to the right to try to get that sling of tension moving all the way from the pelvis up into that shoulder. He's breathing through the ribs to expand that rib cage. He's pushing those ribs out to create more of that sling tension, and he's really elongating through that elbow. Typically we're holding for about 30 seconds, so we're probably getting pretty close to that. We'll go ahead and slowly come out of that. We're gonna hit the other side. That way we can balance out both sides. And usually the first round of the stretch for 30 seconds, we're just doing it just to get things moving, right? We're trying to get a little of awareness where we might feel more tension in the stretch. We're trying to find the position that's best. Go ahead and elongate away. Breathe into that rib cage, keep that tail tucked. As you side bend, you're going to rotate a little bit and really try to get that tension from that arm position all the way through the side of the scapula into that rib cage. He's going to continue to breathe and elongate. Reach, 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 reach.
Yeah, huge stretch.
Right, so we keep it a little bit general. We want to try to get some stretching and movement of the tissue before we really try to crank too hard into it. So we're going to move over to the other side again.
It's important you repeat these. It's not one stretch, one side, multiple stretches.
Yeah, because each time we're going to expand that tissue, that fascia along the lat here. So now I'm going to ask him to really try to intently push that elbow away. He's elevating that scapula up away from that rib cage. He's going to side bend a little bit more. He's going to rotate a little bit more, and I really actually want him to push that rib cage out to the side, like he's really pushing back into the corner of the room. And if I feel along here, I can feel that density of tissue. So really try to press away from both of my hands, keep that tail tucked. Go ahead and turn your face a little bit to the right, drop that chin in, try to get that pull through the back of the neck, press that elbow away. So a couple little factors of progression that we want to move him into now that this is the second round. He can slowly relax. That's about our 30-second time frame. Moving over to the other side, tail tucked again. And what we'll notice a lot of the times when we do a stretch like this, because it's from the right and left side of the body, is that we've got a little asymmetries, right? We might have a little impingement in the shoulder that we might need to navigate around. Tuck that tail, push, 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 reach that rib cage out. Give me a little more rotation, push into my hand here, breathe into my hand. We might feel tighter more on one side than the other, especially if we're in a particular stance on our board all the time, we're rotating and moving, we have that dominant stance. That dominant stance will definitely dictate how we have more tension and more stress through some of these muscles of our body. Good, breathe, breathe, breathe. Let's go ahead and slowly come out of that. So on the last round here, we've done 2 proximal stretches, proximal being closer to the shoulder or the upper body. We're going to do a little bit more of a distal stretch. So distal stretch is going to be more focused towards the pelvis. So as that muscle comes down around the backside of the rib cage, we kind of want to hit all these different parts, right? So go ahead and take your right foot forward. So in this split stance position, we just want to be stable. Make sure that the feet are a little bit wider, foot forward in that position. And we're going to almost take the same posture, but this time this arm is going to reach down the side of the body. This left arm is going to go forward and across the chest. That's going to give us that sort of pre-tension of what we're trying to create in this posterior part of the body. And so what he's going to do is he's going to follow that side bend of pressing that hand towards the ground as he elongates his spine. He's going to turn the face so that we can wrap up some of that tension all the way up into the neck. He's going to press that arm across his body like he's reaching to the other side of the room. So we're getting rotation, we're getting side bending, we're really pulling up through this lat here. So now we're getting lower in this tissue. Go ahead and drop that head down a little bit more like you're looking at your hand. Lengthen through that spine, push that arm across, push your rib cage back into me as you work in this position. And we're really getting, you can feel that tension, his shirt's in tension as we are in this rotated position. And we can always change the angle of the arm. We can go up a little bit. That gets more of these lateral fibers on the outside. We can go more level. That's going to be more of these horizontal fibers that are going to go more towards the back. You got to kind of find where your tension is. Let's go ahead and switch sides for you.
Pay attention to the details. These all matter. The technicalities of this stretch make a big difference. Same with the Eldoa.
Right, so when we do a stretch like this, your lat's a big fan, and that big fan has different parts to it, and we want to be able to get into those different parts. So we're going to side bend, following that hand towards the ground. We're going to rotate, following that hand across the body. We're going to drop that chin down and in. We're lengthening through the spine to really lift up and through that whole torso. And we can change that position of that arm. And sometimes we're fishing around a little bit for where that tension is. Where does it feel bestly served, where I might be more tight along these fibers of the lat? So I'm going to press up and away. I'm going to push back out into the position to create that tension through this whole sling here. You have this whole sling of tension. Breathe, expand, push, lengthen. We're doing that 30-second hold, remember? If we feel like, man, I didn't realize how tight I was in this part of the stretch, we got to repeat it a couple times, okay? So I can feel his body temperature getting there. Right?
Yeah,
you're working
active
hard.
stretching, that was legit. I think people neglect how big the lat is and how much influence it has on both the shoulder, pelvis, low back, integration of the thoracolumbar fascia. So all those different angles, tapping into different fiber directions or portions of that muscle.
Yep. Now that we've worked on the lats and loosened those up a little bit, we've got some movement that we want to work with in that lumbar spine, because again, in that prone position, you're holding yourself up in that extension position, and we want to pump these portions of the spine. Now, this is a great recovery tool, but it's also a great performance tool pre-workout or pre-surf session, because we want to get some good movement in these areas. So Chris is set up in a classic posture, sitting on the ground, feet are flat to the ground. He's holding his knees. I want the effort of the arms to really hold those knees, because I don't want the abs and the hip flexors to do the work. He's going to try to sit up nice and tall. Now, if you're more tight in this position and you have too much rounding in that lower back, just sit up on top of a step or elevate your body a little bit underneath the pelvis to try to get this into more of a neutral posture. So now that we're here, Axial extension or lengthening of the spine. It's like we want to lift that rib cage up away from the pelvis. We want to use our breath. Big inhale helps to lengthen the spine. Big exhale, we want to try to maintain that lengthening in that posture. So now from here, I want him to rock forward on his sit bones, rock back on his sit bones. Now you can see when he does that, we're not moving the upper body or the head. He's letting his hands hold on to those knees to take some of the stress away from the hip flexors and the pelvis and the abs. And now he can be a little free in that pelvis to rock forward into an anterior tilt, rock backwards in a posterior tilt, forward rock, pour the water out to the front, sometimes we say, pour the water out to the back. And we want to get this movement through the spine, but we want to get the movement through the spine as we elongate and as we breathe. So as he rocks forward and straightens his spine out, inhale, exhale, he's trying to roll back. And as we gain range of motion, and you need to do this if you have a spinal pathology, you need to be gentle and careful and not push into too much range of motion that might give you more of a pain problem. But we're trying to move the discs, we're trying to move the joints, and we're trying to move all the tissue around the spine to pump it. And when we say pump it, we want to move the fluids around these structures to prepare them for exercise, or if we've done a lot of stress and compressed the spine a lot because of our physical activity, we want to basically pump these areas again to try to restore them back so that the next day you feel great again. So you can see he's increasing this range of motion. I'm going to have him even increase even more. So we're really going to tuck back. He's going to let his arms elongate. His chin is in. He's still lengthening. And then he's going to inhale back up into position. Exhale, he's tipping the pelvis first, the spine is following, he's opening that spine towards the ground, lift and lengthen, he's pulling with his arms back up in position because again, we don't want the abs or the hip flexors to be doing the work. Good. So we're going to do a couple more here. You really just kind of function in a rep count that's good for your body. When you feel like things start to move and mobilize and they feel like they have a better relationship, then that's really all you need to do. It could be 10 reps, 20 reps, 30 reps. Typically, if you've got more back pain or you're more stiff, you need to be upwards of 20 to 30 mobilizations here.
Yeah,
okay?
Feels good.
Okay, so now that we've got some movement there, we've mobilized the lats, we've pumped the lower spine, we're gonna hit our L5S1.
Eldoa time. So L5S1, really technical. Learn the details in YouTube. Grab the Surf Doa program. This is amazing for spine health.
What we've done here, Chris is rolled himself up into the wall. He made that look really easily. So the first thing is we're gonna sit as close to the wall as we can. Once we sit close to the wall and we roll ourselves up, by the book, our goal is to try to get those sit bones and that tailbone up against the wall and the floor. If we can wedge ourselves into the wall and have those structures in contact with the floor and the wall, perfect. If you're more tight, you've got more tension in the hips, the hamstrings, just back away from the wall a little bit, make sure that we can try to get our legs straight. So we're gonna start hip width apart. We're gonna flex those ankles, pulling those toes down towards the chest. We're gonna turn those feet in. So we're gonna bend at the ankles, invert the feet. We're gonna turn those heels out to create a little internal rotation of the hip. We want those toes really close together, those heels spread apart. Keeping the tailbone on the floor, we're gonna reach those heels towards the ceiling and up the wall. We're gonna breathe and keep that rib cage settled down, keep the abs relaxed. We wanna try to breathe down our lumbar spine. We wanna try to breathe down our rib cage. We wanna try to have the chin in and the eyes looking down the body so that we stay long in the back of the neck. And now we're trying to have an effort like the back of the head is sliding away from the wall and lengthening the spine. And the pelvis is almost scooping towards the wall like he's trying to reach his tailbone into the wall. So we're trying to get that elongation where the pelvis is reaching away from the spine is reaching away from the pelvis. We're breathing in this area. He's gonna go ahead and take both arms up over his chest, wrist extension, fingers spread, external rotation. Both arms are gonna go back towards the wall and press away. We wanna have symmetry in the arms. If we have a shoulder limitation or we're tighter on one side and one arm is up higher than the other, then we're gonna match it to the other side so that we're as symmetrical as possible. So he's gonna press away. His eyes are looking down. He's staying long in the back of the neck. The heels are reaching, so that global tension between the arms and the heels are reaching. The eyes are looking down, the pelvis is scooping and reaching towards the wall as the spine, rib cage, torso, head is reaching away from the wall, and he's breathing that space open. We want to do this 60 seconds. Usually we can knock this out one time if we've got a lot of discomfort, pain, compression in that lower spine, sometimes we can do it a couple times in a row and really try to get this to open up. So this is going to be the end of our exercise here. He's going to slowly relax his breath. Usually we try to do a 5x5 breathing. Inhale 5 seconds, exhale 5 seconds. That gets us into a good routine. Go ahead and relax those arms back towards the chest. We're going to relax both of the legs, and we can bend those knees. And then go ahead and hug those knees back into your chest. This is a good recovery position. You can continue to breathe in this posture. You can rock a little bit right and left, kind of massage that lower spine into the ground. When you're ready to get out of this position, you can either slide away from the wall or you can turn to the side, trying to keep your pelvis and your shoulders in the same position, and then all the way over to your knees and your feet. That's 3 exercises. Knocked them out pretty fast, but hey, if your lower spine is not happy, or your shoulders, or you just feel tight in that sort of posterior chain, those are going to be your go-tos to make you feel good.
I mean, just that feels amazing. After, imagine 2 hours of surfing, most people are deconditioned, your neck's jacked up, your low back's super tight, your paddling endurance is shit. That was maybe, if you did that quick, 4 or 5 minutes tops. Again, there's way more comprehensive stuff in the Surfdoa app, the technicalities, learn more Eldoas for other parts of the lumbar spine, a lot more comprehensive myofascial stretches, but most of you out there, I guarantee if you feel this, work through it, learn the movements, this can have a really positive effect on your body, because ultimately, your spine health is your ability to surf. Technically, now that you've watched that, if you have an attention span, that Eldoa, L5S1 Eldoa, generically speaking, we're trying to decoap, to make space at that L5S1 segment. That's the lowest vertebral segment where your 5th lumbar vertebrae sits on top of your sacrum. It gets really compressed, right? We just arched and paddled for 2 or 3 hours. We're trying to open up all the tissue, reset tensions, decompress that space.
Actively.
Actively,
and
that's
specifically.
The key.
There's a lot of programs out there for compression of the spine and pain for the spine, whether it's disc pathologies, joint pathologies, tight tissue. A lot of them are based in passive manual therapy, passive modalities. You need to have some buy-in with your body. You need to have some neurological control. You need to be able to move the tissue. The fascia can get really tight. One of your biggest, densest fascias that you have in your body is your thoracic or your lumbar spine. Right? So we want to be able to get good mobility in that area. We want to be able to protect the segments of the spine and the discs, because if anything presses on the nerve, that's what's going to drive pain. And so even if you're not in pain, a lot of people think that these exercises are more in the world of pain. They're not. If you want to live your life and be healthy and feel good and do the sports activities, whatever it is you want to do the rest of your life, you need to do this stuff.
It's basically a focus on performance and longevity. Like in the app,
recovery.
Yeah, that's it, recovery. If you're surfing, your recovery should be just as dialed in, if not more, especially if you're over the age of 30. People generally don't focus on recovery until they've injured themselves so far that they have to work on recovery for 6, 12 months post-surgical, whatever it may be.
Any one of my patients and my clients gets an L5S1. That's what we deem our magical Eldoa. It's good for all the spine. So as much as we're talking about the lumbar right now, it's good for all of the posture, all the function of the spine, because you're really getting everything to elongate as you lay on the floor. And then even as just something that's more passive to that exercise is just getting in that recovery position. If you do have lower back pain, you have some spasming, you have whatever going on. And it's kind of like back pain recovery 101. Lay on the floor, put your legs up the wall, decompress everything, relax, breathe. When you're ready, go into an active exercise to try to really open up the space for your spine. On
our surf coaching camps in Indonesia on the boats, one of the first things I teach everybody is that L5S1. And I want to see them doing it every day, in the evening, whenever if needed, but ideally in the evening prior to them going to sleep or post-surf. Again, you will see within the Surfdoa program my specific stretching routine that incorporates some of these, along with another couple of Eldoas for the lumbar spine. In this 3 exercise routine, we hit the lat because it's used heavily with paddling and it's fascial tie-ins into the low back. Roll downs to help open up the facet joints, pump all those tissues, kind of prep the lumbar spine for this full integrated Eldoa,
Exactly.
Cool. Anything else you want to add, dude?
I mean, if you're one of those people that sits a lot and you enjoy surfing, or you travel a lot and you enjoy surfing, like if you're like Chris and you get to travel the country, you're traveling and you're sitting, right?
Too
if
much.
you're like me, I'm doing a lot of education, I'm traveling and I'm sitting. I just came back from a long trip. My back is smoked from sitting in long airplane rides, sitting while I work and things like that. I have to do this to get through my days.
And again, I keep pumping the Eldoa program in the Surf Athlete app because it's legit. But there's actually a post-airplane travel routine incorporating myofascial stretches around the pelvis, hamstrings, low back, and then several Eldoas. Because this is literally things that have kept my pretty ravaged body capable of surfing. So you should use it. Throw a thumbs up, like, subscribe, support us on the channel. Hope you dig it.
On the inside.